Hi everyone, it's me Roxanne, and I'm back with a new video featuring the Singer Quantum Stylist 9960. In this segment, I'm going to show you how to create a customized label for any of your heirloom or quilting projects. I'll be using the letter and number stitches pre-programmed into this machine, and I'll show you how to set it all up so that you can make a perfect label for your project. So stay tuned. Here are the supplies you're going to need to make your label. You're going to need the fabric you want to use for the label and a piece of sew-in interfacing. This is a medium to heavy weight. A marking pen, I like the purple pen, the disappearing ink, and a ruler. The next thing you'll need is a piece of paper, and you need to write down what each of your lines will say so that you can count the characters for input into the machine. The first thing you need to do is take your ruler and your disappearing ink or marking pen and make a line on your fabric. This will be for your first line of stitching. Here I am at the front right side of the sewing machine, and the first thing I'd like you to do is to unplug the foot control. We're not going to be using the foot control for this particular application today. So just put your foot pedal off to the side. The next thing I'd like you to do is turn your machine on and then press the bottom right button twice, and your letters will appear. Now it's also telling you to use foot B, which is your clear plastic foot, and you have your different stitch options here, which are the print font, the script font, the italic font, and the block font. Today I'm going to be using the block font. So you'll press the lower right button over to that font and select that one to use. Here I am in front of the sewing machine, and I'm going to show you how to input your first line of letter and number stitches. I'm going to be putting in my first name and last name on line 1. So now I'm going to show you how to input that into the machine. Right now I have selected the block letter, and then each one of these arrows point to a letter, and you will select the character by these arrows. Now to scroll through all your different options, you'll be using this button or this button. So we're going to scroll over to an R, and then we're going to scroll over to the lowercase letters. There's an O. And I'm going to go ahead and spell my whole name. It's very easy just scrolling back and forth. Now, when you come to the point where you need a space, you're going to scroll all the way through until you get to this character here, which is the empty box. And you'll press that, and that will give you a space between my first name and my last name. So now I will go back to my uppercase letters and continue my name down to the lowercase. My last. So now I have my first and my last name input into the machine, and I'm going to stitch that out. Here I am at the front bed of the sewing machine getting ready to stitch out my first characters, my first and last name. I have a size 14 sharp needle in my machine, and I have regular sewing thread in the upper and in the bobbin of the machine. I'm going to go ahead and line my needle up with the line that I made. put my presser foot down, and then I'm just going to press the start button and let the machine stitch on its own. I have my machine set right now to a middle stitch speed. I'm not sewing super fast or even the slowest speed. And the machine will just guide itself along. And there it finished with my first name. Now it's moving on to my last name. And when it comes to the end, it will just stop all on its own. Now, if you would like to stitch more than one label using the same characters, you can just start once again and it will stitch it all over again. And look at how nicely it's stitched. The next step in this process is to draw a line underneath what you've already stitched. Now, take a tape measure and measure the length from the capital R all the way down to the lowercase c, and you have 3.5 inches. Divide that in half by folding your tape measure in half, and it comes out with 1 3/4 inches. So go ahead and make a little mark there at 1 3/4 inches. That's your center. Now the next step is markings for lines 2 and 3. Take your project and line up 1/2 inch from the bottom of the previous stitching and make a line. And do the same thing at 1/2 inch one more time. These are your markings for lines 2 and 3. The next thing you do is you count the characters for lines 2 and 3 and compare them with lines 1. Now line 1 you have 13 characters. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, space, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. For the next line, happy birthday, you have 14 characters. So what I'll do is I'll start my capital H in happy birthday right before the capital R. I'll also go ahead and make a vertical line . So I'll know where the center is for my other 2 lines. Now my third line has 13 characters, which is the same as my first line. So I'll line that up with my first line. And that's how you get your characters evenly spaced for your label. Now I'm going to go ahead and stitch lines 2 and lines 3, but I'm not going to show it. It's the same process as when I stitched line number 1. Here I've gone ahead and stitched in lines 2 and 3, and basically my label is complete at this point. If you would like to stitch in some of the pattern stitches in your label or use deco stitching, I've included that information in my video part 5, and I'll go ahead and link that down in the description box so you can go ahead and check that out. Now the next step is to mark 1/2 inch above your stitching and beside your stitching and below. And this is where you're going to cut your interfacing only. And also cut your fabric about 1/2 inch beyond that. And then I'm going to go press. Well, this is my completed label. I've gone ahead and pressed under my corners and then pressed under my sides. And I went ahead and I trimmed out between my first and last name, and between happy and birthday, and between my date, just to give it a little bit of separation. But I did not trim out everything underneath to completely separate the letters, just because I like the way it works and looks continuous. But if you choose to go in and trim between each one of the characters, I suggest that you use a drop of fray check in those areas. Another thing that I did when I used a very sharp little pair of scissors to trim in between, but I did not trim the bobbin thread. I left that intact. I just think it keeps it a little bit more secure. So now you can go ahead and hand stitch this onto your project, or you can use a decorative stitch around the edge. You know, the choice is up to you. My recent one that I'm showing, I whip stitched it on in an alternate color because I wanted it to look like a rope, because my theme was nautical. It was a mermaid. So, well, I hope you give this a try, and I hope that you use this to customize your pieces. Thank you for stopping by today and watching my latest video featuring the Singer Quantum Stylist 9960 and how you can create your own customized label using the letter and number stitches that are preset into this wonderful machine. I hope that you'll consider subscribing to my channel, and if you like what you saw today, you'll give me a thumbs up. I always appreciate your comments. Thanks so much for your support. So have a happy creative day. Bye now.